Dangerous tools and chemical hazards don't know the difference between a large budget or a shoestring theater operation. Be sure you receive complete instructions on the safe operation of every tool and accessory you use. Ask yourself these questions. What is the purpose of the tool? What doesn't it do? What is dangerous about this tool, and in what ways might it hurt me? When in doubt, ask. Most shop accidents happen because of operator error. Operators are either not using the right tool for the job, or not using the tool correctly, or they're simply daydreaming. OSHA regulations are especially strict about the use of equipment safety guards. All blade shields must be in place. Always use a push stick when working on the table saw. Keep fingers away from the cutting area on all saws. Don't attempt to artificially stop any machinery that has been turned off. Never abandon running machinery, and never leave a piece of machinery until it has stopped running. Finally, know how to properly turn on and turn off your machinery. If you don't protect yourself, the same tools that can make for a creative life in the theater will destroy your hearing. Long-term, unprotected exposure to noise levels found in most theaters will guarantee deafness. Hearing loss is completely preventable. If you work in a theater where the noise level is often above 85 dB, a lawnmower generates about 90 dB, your theater is legally required under OSHA regulations to have a hearing conservation program. Loud sounds can cause temporary hearing loss by stunning the nerves on the eardrum. The eardrum has a built-in tolerance and is able to recover from occasional loud and percussive sounds. However, as the sound gets louder and the exposure gets longer, the likelihood of permanent hearing loss moves from possible to probable. The solutions for theater ears are simple. Number 1, reduce sound at the source by enclosing noisy equipment. Number 2, sound dampen the space by treating walls and ceilings. And number 3, wear personal hearing protection devices. High-frequency noise is transmitted mostly by air and tends to be the most damaging to the ear. It is also the easiest to control, since it can be reduced by simply blocking the path to the eardrum. There are dozens of hearing protection devices on the market. Two kinds frequently found in theaters are earmuffs, which cover the ears, and earplugs, which are inserted in and block the ear canal. Because earplugs provide protection by blocking the air path to the eardrum, their effectiveness is dependent upon proper fit and insertion. These slow recovery foam plugs are rolled between the fingers to make them more compact, then inserted into the ear canal where they slowly expand to its size and shape. Inexpensive, they provide a high level of protection. Foam plugs must be gently held in the ear for 30 seconds to properly expand and fit the opening. Earmuffs are easier to use, but also easier to misuse, since glasses, long hair, and the like can prevent a tight seal around the ear. In extremely noisy environments, both earmuffs and earplugs can be worn together. When you are buying ear protection, look for the noise attenuation rating on the box. The higher the number, the more sound it stops. And speaking of hearing, many theaters ban the use of personal stereo headsets because you can't hear your tools or calls for emergency. Never wear ties, loose-fitting clothing, long-sleeve shirts, scarves, jewelry, furs. Essentially, avoid wearing anything that might get caught in machinery and pull you into it. Tie long hair back, or wear a hat if necessary, to keep hair from being tangled in power equipment. Do not talk to or distract any power tool operator. Breaking their concentration might cause an injury. Pranks, horseplay, and running around in the theater and shop are dangerous. And the theater gods will get you. Nails, screws, bolts, staples, and other hardware are not to be left sticking out of reusable lumber. Remove them immediately or throw the wood away. Lumber going into a used wood bin must be clean of all foreign objects. You don't want to run across a hidden nail as you're cutting a used piece of lumber. There's an old saying in the theater, Body parts cut with a sharp blade are easier to sew back on. Never point an air staple gun at anyone, especially when connecting or disconnecting. Even with a safety trigger, some guns tend to shoot a staple upon connection. Some of the larger guns can be quite noisy, so wear ear protection. At the end of a project or work call, return tools to their proper storage place and clean up the area. Do not use compressed air to clean up. It creates too much dust. Junk and lack of storage space around theaters is both a safety and fire hazard. Good housekeeping is essential to an efficient, safe environment and a requirement of federal laws. The use of polyester resins, epoxy resins, and even the more hazardous polyurethane AB foam resins is one of the most dangerous activities in theater work. The vapors from these processes are highly toxic. Spraying AB foams, for example, is extremely dangerous due to the risk of inhalation of isocyanates, which cause possibly fatal chemical pneumonia and severe asthma. Isocyanates caused the thousands of deaths in Bhopal, India several years ago. If AB foams are sprayed, it must be done in a spray booth or while wearing a self-contained breathing apparatus. There is no cartridge respirator approved for protection against the spraying or burning of polyurethane foams. Many theaters forbid the use of these polyurethane foams for all of the above reasons. Expanded polystyrene is much less dangerous as it uses pentane as a blowing agent. Still, adequate fresh air ventilation is needed. Know the material you are working with. A big problem arises when theater workers find old foam pieces around the theater and do not know its chemical makeup. Read the MSDSs that come with the foam. If it doesn't have an MSDS, don't use it. Polyester and epoxy resins require complete personal protection with approved gloves, respirators, and goggles. The two most pressing problems in the welding area are ultraviolet radiation and eye damage from the electric arc and the probability of fire caused by sparks and flame. Many theaters do not have an adequate place to weld. It often takes place in a corner of a stage floor or outside, where many people risk viewing the electric arc. Looking at the arc directly without eye protection can cause arc eye, conjunctivitis, or permanent damage to the retina. When possible, welding should be done in a separate area, away from the stage and always behind protective curtains. Sparks from a welding operation can travel up to 40 feet. This makes fire a major concern when welding is taking place. OSHA has very specific regulations to be followed for welding. Do not use solvents or paint thinner to clean your skin. Use a waterless hand cleaner instead. In a pinch, baby oil and even vegetable oil can serve as an excellent waterless hand cleaner. Scenery and prop shops must have an approved flammable liquid storage cabinet for the storage of flammable liquids. Return spray paints, thinners, and cleaners to storage after each use. Because of all of the hazardous materials one is exposed to while working in the theater, keep an extra set of clothes on hand just for grubby theater or shop work. Leave them in the theater at the end of the work shift and be sure to wash them frequently and separately from other clothes. I know this is a lot of material to cover in a short amount of time. Most of these safety areas can be explored more thoroughly using the sources that follow. But with the introduction to theater safety you've just seen, you now have an increased awareness on how you can and need to protect yourself. I'm David Fenner, and from all of us at Theater Arts Video Library, don't break a leg, play it safe.